blessed with a championship prosperity the likes of which we have never seen, cursed by a past riddled with despair. This is Blursed.
What's up and welcome to Blursed, everybody. It's H-Cum, your boy Hayden Cummins, hosting this week along with Bleezy Blake Dodd. What's up, buddy?
Blursed. I'm
Uh-oh.
back. What's up, everybody? That was for
Dylan,
Dill Dog. I know he
Dylan just
listens every
stopped
week.
listening.
Yeah, right at the beginning. No, what the hell?
He's our
Over
most
it.
loyal follower, along
Yeah,
with
he
a
messaged me
few
about
other
the.
guys.
Did he message you? He messaged me about the music. He loved it. He loved that we mentioned it. The Alexa play, because we talked about him last week. We featured him, so he was
Oh, yeah.
thrilled to be mentioned.
Every
Yeah, he
week.
was.
We need to just do
Yeah,
that with all our listeners. Just bring them up by name and just make everybody feel warm and fuzzy.
and obligated to listen every week.
Yeah.
Obligated
It'll
to
it'll
listen.
it'll lock them in for another week that they have to keep coming back just in case, in
Just to
the
make sure they're
off
talked
chance
about.
that they may be talked about. So who should our listener of the week be this week?
I am going to mention Frank when we talk about Falcons. So, Frank,
Frank,
if you're there, tune in, man. For the
listener
whole
of the
episode.
week. Glad
Listener of
you're
the week. Glad you're here, man. Clint, what's his name? Clem Jones?
here. We can't be giving away his
Aliases?
yeah, his alii.
But now he's got to change
He
it.
has so many different names he's known by. What's going on though? Before we get into
So,
the dirty,
as you can tell, guys, I'm in a new room. I just changed my background in my room. So I'm just kidding. We over the weekend, we had a good weekend actually. We went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on Saturday.
how's that?
Oh God, I
Is it
loved it.
good?
Guardians of the Galaxy is like I'm partial to like some of my favorites of all the Marvel movies. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, like this one was definitely more emotional, definitely a little more serious than their last couple ones. And that's probably because I've just been emotional recently because of things that are happening in life. But I cried several times, like
Yeah.
tears in my eyes. I was like wiping them away. Like I was like, oh my
I
God.
think Guardians is probably my favorite series within the
Within
Marvel
the
universe. I
Marvel,
haven't seen the new one
yeah.
yet. I've heard there's like animal abuse scenes and stuff like that though. So I was like, I don't know.
Kind of.
CGI animal abuse.
Yeah, but it's not even that. Like that's not the it is, but it isn't. I wouldn't say that. Like when I watched it, I wasn't going, "Oh, this is Peter. Peter, where are you at, Peter?" Like I wasn't thinking
It's
anything
not
like that.
triggering
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
yeah. No, I wasn't triggered, and I'm a very soft. Like I'm softy for animals, so
Okay,
I'm soft
same.
in general. I'm Downy soft. So
Yeah,
I,
I'm not gonna argue that. Same
yeah,
here.
you're like Charmin Ultra. I'm Downy. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about good toilet paper. Um, so we did that, and then Sunday we rearranged our house. So this was formerly our dining room. It wasn't really a dining room. We never ate in here anyways. We used another table, so it was kind of just like a passerby room that had our pantry in it, and now it's the office, and it's like tied together our home a lot more. And I love being down here. I actually am not. I'm no longer cooped up in my office. I feel like now it's like the office open floor plan. I got my kitchen behind me, the living room right beside me. It's nice.
Ties the
So
whole room together.
it
Ties the whole house
does.
together.
It does. It's pleasant.
It's good to
So
switch things up every once in a while too.
for sure, it feels like a whole new home. I was like, man, we upgraded. It feels like we upgraded and then we didn't do anything except for move stuff around.
Dining
So
rooms are so overrated too. I don't know about like
oh,
you growing up, but my family we had a dining room, but we didn't use it. And then as an adult, that's kind of continued that like I have my own dining space, but that we don't use at all. And
I feel
we're still in the new house. We're still not going to use a dining room.
they're only used for like hosting purposes, whether it's family or friends.
Right.
And in the days after COVID, who hosts anyone anymore? I just feel like people meet out now. Not saying
It's
you shouldn't
true.
host people, but I just haven't really hosted anyone basically since COVID, besides family, and family doesn't care where you sit really. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I think they're mainly meant for big family events or big hosting parties or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Counters are the best. Or coffee
yeah.
tables. I'll eat there.
Yeah, we have a coffee table that opens up and another table comes out like a
Oh,
normal, like a little table, so you can just sit right at the couch, like
little
you don't have to bend over or
Russian
anything.
doll coffee table.
Yeah, it's like your own TV tray, but you don't have to have a TV tray. It comes out of the yeah, it's a Russian doll table basically. It's
Hell yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's the best purchase we ever had.
Any purchase of convenience is always for the best.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So how about your weekend? What'd you
It's good. We did a lot. It's Kinsey's birthday was Saturday, so it was a birthday weekend. We
nice?
had a nice dinner with some friends over here in Fort Collins. Probably the best food we found out here so far, so I was pretty pumped about that.
That's
Um,
awesome. I've real question, just question for all the am
oh,
I does it look like I'm looking at you or no? Because like my camera, it might be in a little different spot and stuff. I'm like looking down the whole time. That'd be kind of weird.
so yeah, it looks like you're looking down. So
Hold up. Sorry. Guys, everyone who's watching right now, you're gonna have to bear with me for just 1 second.
this is exhilarating for the
This
listeners
weird?
for sure.
Hold up. What about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Closer. Yeah, I mean that's what we can't like have the camera in front of like us
No, it's
actually
not like a
looking at
laptop. As
each
long as
other.
this is better. Yeah, as long as this is better. That's all that matters. But yeah, awesome. Do y'all do anything special for the birthday?
Yeah, we just went out to a really nice dinner, and then we did
Ooh,
some shopping and stuff, and then we toured a house. We've been house hunting in Colorado, which is really difficult, and we actually found a house, and we're under contract now. So pretty pumped to have that process done with. So it's
relief.
really expensive birthday.
You bought her a house. That's
Yeah, we bought her a house. So
yeah, nice.
but yeah,
All this Blursed
it
income
was
paid
good.
off.
I got sold. I'm so bad at like we went to an outlet mall, and so like
Yeah.
there's this really good salesman, which I was just like walking around, like really just letting Kinsey shop and stuff, and I'm just like farting around doing nothing or like walking around stores, letting her take as much time as she wants, and then like this guy stopped me. It was a shoe cleaning product. He's like, "Hey man, I just real quick, I need you to hold this box and like just so my boss like sees that I'm talking to people." I was like, all right, well, whatever. And then he starts cleaning my shoes. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then like I'm holding the box. He's like, oh, do you mind holding this for a second? It's like, okay. I was like, I'll hold that too. So I'm just standing there. He's cleaning my shoes, and I'm like, what is happening right now? I was just walking through this mall, and all of a sudden I'm having my shoes cleaned. They're tennis shoes. They're not like it's like a
Right.
shoe shine, but like it actually worked extremely well. And yeah, I ended up buying that because the guy was a great salesman.
God, he's a
He
genius,
knows as soon
dude.
as you get the product in your hand, you're more likely to buy it.
Especially when
So,
your shoes look better afterwards. Do
oh
you think he
yeah,
was scouting you out like, those shoes look a little like they could use a little touch?
yeah. I probably got scouted out. He's like, oh, those are Allbirds. This guy's got a little bit of money, and like,
I was
he's gonna buy my product because he feels awkward about it, which I can get sold on a
got
lot of
you. He
things
got
like
you.
that. Yeah,
I had a coworker last week. I was asking because they're a sneakerhead, and I was like, "Yeah, I have this really nice pair of Jack Jones white shoes. I love them, but I don't wear them too often because I'm always worried I'm gonna get them dirty because they're solid white." She
yeah.
said, "Yeah, Magic Eraser, like the Magic Erasers." She
Oh,
said, "You just do that on there, and they clean them right up."
like the
So
wall
I,
cleaner.
yeah, the wall cleaner. So
Oh
I
wow.
bought one over the weekend. I haven't tested it out yet, but I'll test it out before the next episode and let
Yeah,
all of our listeners know.
all of
Yeah,
our
we'll give it
shoe
a
cleaning,
Blakey D approval. Yeah.
all of our shoe cleaning products featured here on
Featured
Blursed.
here on Blurs. I mean, hey, if you like sports, you probably like sneakers. So
Yeah.
there's a chance.
Well, speaking of sneakers, let's sneak over to Blurst of the Week.
Worst of the week.
You know what? I like what you did there.
Yeah,
I
it's
like what you did
right on the
there.
tip of my tongue.
So my Blurs of the week is actually going to be the Hawks beating the Heat in the play-in tournament.
Mm,
I know like hindsight, and we talked about it. We talked about the Hawks worst matchup would be the Celtics, and I'm not saying the Hawks right now would be beating the Celtics at all. I don't think the Hawks would be up 3-0 on the Celtics. Obviously we lost in 6 against them, but my point is we could have been back to the Eastern Conference Finals potentially if we were the ones who played the Bucks. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about the Hawks later, because you're like, well, how will the Hawks beat the Bucks? Well, it's because their best player didn't play 2.75 of their game. So 2 3/4 of the games they played against the Heat, Giannis Antetokounmpo did not play, which
mm.
means they lost in 5 games. So over half the series he didn't play, and every game that he didn't play they lost. So and then they had an easy Knicks matchup in the second round, which they easily beat. And now they're playing the Celtics, and frick, they're up 3-0 on the Celtics. So
Are they
it's
really?
yeah, they're up 3-0. So they won both games in Boston, and they just killed them last night in Miami.
They're
Like
the eighth seed.
Yeah, they're the 8th seed. They're the 8th seed.
So they'll be the
There's
first 8 seed to ever make it.
the finals. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Lakers would be the first 7 seed. So or maybe not to make it. It would be to win. So like I don't
Still,
know.
though.
There may have been an 8 seed to make it before, but we've never seen an 8 seed win the finals.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But that's my blurs. Like I said, I don't think this makes the Hawks a Eastern or a finals contender or anything like that. It was cool to watch us play in the ECF instead of getting sent home in the first round.
Should have lost that game.
Should have lost it. You never know, man. You just got to know when to lose. So, I mean, honestly, I'm grasping for straws this week. It's been a pretty good week in sports for Atlanta, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. All right, for my blurs of the week, I'm actually not gonna do sports. I'm gonna do reality TV because since I've been married, I have gotten addicted to certain reality TV that's super
Same.
trashy and I can't help it.
Same.
But boy, oh boy, it's so good and juicy. So Vanderpump Rules, if you've ever watched it, it's kind of follows a younger crowd. Well, I guess they've transitioned. They're somewhat older now. They like work in a restaurant in LA, and then now they're all like getting into their 30s, 40s. So this one couple that's been together for so long, Tom and Ariana.
10 seasons.
Tom cheated on Ariana with her best friend. And they weren't married, but they were life partners. So they were together for 10 years. And like, this is like broken reality TV. This is like the hottest news ever. So the finale finally dropped last Thursday, and it was nuts. It was great. So the blurst part is,
it's over.
Yeah, it sucks that this is getting drawn out for 3 reunion episodes, but also it's so juicy and it's going to continue.
You want 3?
Yeah, so we still get to see an Ariana versus Raquel confrontation. Man, it just sucks.
Awesome.
It sucks me right in. I can't stop it. I can't quit it.
Does Kinsey watch Selling Sunset?
Yes, she had. I haven't watched that one, but Kinsey has.
Yeah, I can't get into that one. Jess loves that one. I cannot get into it. Like I try to watch some of her shows, and like the ones that get me are like the love shows. Honestly, like I like Love at First, or what is it called? Love Is Blind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like those get me. But yeah, Selling Sunset I can't get into. This Vanderpump Rules, I have to ask her if she's watched it.
Ooh,
see,
it's good.
10 seasons. That's Jess is all about a lot of seasons.
Oh yeah,
so she might,
I recommend it. Start on that. It started in like 2012, so yeah, it's a good time. But yeah, that's a little bit of a pivot.
It's all you husbands or boyfriends out there. Yeah, that's how you got to pick one show to watch with your significant other.
Oh, at least.
So,
yeah,
at least one. Yeah, but like one that like they like way more than you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you just slowly, yeah.
A
lot of times, too. I'll be like on my laptop or something like that watching sports, and I'll be like the side eye, like, oh wait, what the hell happened there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
that always happens. Or like she'll start shows, and I'm like, I'm not really interested in this. I'm like Bridgerton. That's how I got into Bridgerton because like it was just she had it on. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Also trashy in a different way, but like.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Whatever.
And now the people that made Bridgerton have a new show, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of like
about
a
King
prequel.
George, right?
Yeah, it's a prequel series, I think.
Yeah. So Jess is thinking about watching that. So
ooh, I didn't even know it came out yet.
I don't know if it's out yet either. I just know we just watched a preview for it. So
interesting.
More you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's you want to talk about some Braves? I'm gonna pick yours just because it's time. It's about time we
switch things up from
sports. Switch things up a little bit. Yeah, get a little reality.
We're testing the waters a little bit, see what people think. So then we'll just start a reality TV podcast.
And we talked video games last episode, like for 10 minutes, start off the pod. So
also speaking of that, honestly, my blurst of the week should have been after I talked shit about Diamond Dynasty, which is Ultimate Team for the show.
Are you playing it all week?
I've gotten obsessed with it in the past week. So I refuse to pay money like on top of buying the base game.
As you should.
Which you can do that. Like, and that's how people get really, really good teams really quickly.
Yeah, pay to win.
But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I've started grinding a little bit. And then now I'm kind of getting it. Like you get to open packs and I don't know, hope you get the best players and like develop the players a little bit. So mostly I lost like 2 online games horribly. And I was like, why are these people so good? And then I go look at their team. They're all 99 overall diamond quality cards or whatever. And all mine are like gold, silver, and bronze. And I was like, what the hell? No wonder they hit everything perfect. I'm like, how do they do this? It's because they have like the top overall players. I'm like, okay, so I got to level up my team and get into the
grind. Yeah. But that's the thing is what kills me about it is the pay to win aspect.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
just,
don't like that.
I don't like it. I
I
don't
want to
like
beat
it.
them at their own game without paying extra. So
Yeah, so you just
that's
have to put in hundreds of hours, and you'll get there.
hopefully not that much. Jesus, I don't have enough time.
Thousands,
I don't have enough
thousands
time.
of hours.
After we can become professional podcasters, maybe I can dedicate my time to ponying
Yeah, we
some
could have a
noobs.
whole episode that's just you every week playing.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can hop on the Twitch or something.
yeah, for sure.
All right, let's talk about the
Braves.
So it's a better week. Last time we talked, we had come off getting swept by the Blue Jays, which happens every year. It feels like,
Dude,
but
why do they play us so well?
I don't know, man. It's
I
pretty
thought us
incredible.
stealing some of their players would like help us out some. Like we got the old Pilar now from them and a
Yeah,
couple others,
well,
but no, they don't care.
Pilar did his best. He hit a home run in that series, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. We get in international waters and have a hard time. But this week was better. We took 2 out of 3 versus the Rangers, and we took two out of 3 versus the Mariners, which are both pretty good teams in the AL West. So that's something to be proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, we dropped the Mariners under 500 just by them playing us, which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they were right at 500, and the Rangers are basically us in the East, or what would you call it? The not
AL
sorry, not
West.
the East, AL West, because they are 29-17, just like us.
I'll say it's pretty fun this year that like there's a lot of new teams that are making an impact in that like that aren't
Absolutely.
normal. So like the Orioles, you saw it coming a little bit last year, and the Rangers, they've been bringing in big name players for a couple years now. But it's fun to actually see that come to fruition, and hopefully that can drain teams that have been dominating for too long because they've been in weak divisions like the Astros. Obviously, the Astros are very good, and it doesn't matter what division that they are in, but it helps that they have a little bit of extra competition that they have to lace them up for a little bit harder.
No, it
work a little bit harder through the regular season than they have,
and it makes it where they can't just get like have a free ride to the championship every year. And I'll be honest too, like the American League, let's it's weird. The American League in baseball is the only time like I feel like this is true because like AFC is better than the NFC, and I think the West is typically better than the East in basketball. But American League, like if that's like your opposite, they've been worse than the National League for like the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. And like the only team out of the American League that's been any good has been Houston.
Yeah, really, it's been pretty dominated by Houston almost 10 years now. I mean, really since like 2016.
Because what you had the Guardians, which are the Indians at the time, they played the Whites or the Cubs in the World Series, but the Cubs won that.
Yep.
What's the last American League team to win besides the Astros?
I
couldn't
probably
even tell
the
you.
Royals.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Maybe we're missing a year in there.
Yeah, I'll look up.
Dodgers won 2020.
10 years.
We were 21. Astros 22. Astros won in 2017. Who won 2018?
All right. So we had Astros last year, Braves the year before, Dodgers 2020, Nationals 2019, Red Sox 2018.
Yeah.
But that's it. And then the Royals in 2015.
Yeah. It's been pretty dominated, and the Red Sox have been very up and down too since then.
Well, I guess if you do 10 years since 2013. So it was Red Sox, Royals, Red Sox, Astros.
Yeah.
But they've won as many as actually they've won more. I'm talking shit, and they've won more World Series than the National League. But I just feel like the National League has had more competition. There's been more teams competing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But honestly, now with the balanced schedule and we will play more teams, it's going to be easier to see what's going on around the league because until this year, like we played predominantly National League teams and NL East teams specifically. You don't really familiarize yourself with other teams and you don't really know what's going on besides your division specifically. And so it's nice to see us playing teams we don't usually play. You can kind of understand what kind of talent they have. And like, I don't know if we would have even known that the Rangers were good at all this year. We probably would have just assumed that they were bad.
The only reason I would know,
we know that they're pretty good and like they're leading their division.
Yeah, the only reason I would know is if you play fantasy sports. Like I feel like fantasy sports helps you because you're keeping up with some of that stuff. You know what's super misleading? If you look on Google, like the last 10 games teams have played, the Braves are 4-6 in their last 10 games.
Yeah,
but we're 4-2 in our last 6 games. So like that's super misleading.
There's just so many games in baseball. It's not like a super helpful thing. unless
Not at
somebody's like
all.
0-10 or something like that. But
Yeah, 3-7
um,
is not a good look by the Cubs. Ooh,
I wonder how
the Cardinals
Dansby
are
likes being
surging.
under 500.
They're 8-2 in their last 10.
I know they're pretty
Still
streaky.
under 500 by 6 games.
Yeah, they had a brutal start to the
They
year.
really did. Baseball's so, like you said, it's baseball's so interesting because unlike, I feel like unlike other sports, you saw it a little bit more in basketball this year, but I feel like by week 10 in football, who's who. I feel
Yeah,
like in basketball by All Star or way before All Star break, I feel like a couple months in, you already know who's who. But in baseball, it's the whole season. It just
yeah.
ebb and flows, always.
Yeah, it's a game of streakiness, really, and it comes down to if your win streaks outlast your losing streaks, and you see that on an individual player level too with hitting. Really, the most consistent thing in the sport is pitching, I would say, and defense.
Yeah.
If a team is good at defense, they'll be consistently be good, and they're not going to have bad days, really. And yeah, if you're a good pitcher, then you're just good.
Yeah.
It feels like, but hitting, no matter which hitter it is, except for maybe Ronald Acuna, uh,
God,
it's
so good.
you're going to go through streaks. Apparently, he's on pace to set all kinds of records for first inning stats. So, like, he has like a 500, a 541 batting average in the first inning this year. So, basically, with him leading off games, he has a 50% chance of getting
There's
a
a chance to
hit.
get a base.
That's
or to
incredible.
get a hit. Not even, yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean his on base percentage is probably higher than that, taking
Yeah.
walks and stuff. But he's just on a really crazy pace right now. Like he's gonna break Major League Baseball records for like leadoff home runs and getting on base and scoring runs in the first inning, which gives you a huge leg up the rest of the game.
Oh, absolutely. I saw too that he is on pace to break the single season runs record. He's on
Dang,
pace for 156 runs.
I
And
mean,
like
how often is it like that we
only
start?
twice has it been over 150.
Whew, that's incredible. I mean, the
Yeah.
the impact that has, and like hopefully, I mean, we're gonna need him to continue doing that because of the pitching issues that we're having. So because
Yeah,
like
get into that
Kyle
a little
Wright
bit.
and Max Fried have been hurt, and it's kind of a long term thing. Kyle Wright is on the 60-day IL with the shoulder issue. Max hasn't been put on the long term IL yet,
What does that date back to though for Kyle Wright?
maybe like 10 days. So we
Is that
still,
it?
yeah, but like he's not throwing. So that's one.
Right.
If they shut it down completely, then it's like you have to reboot midway through the season.
Okay.
So it'll be a couple months still. They said the Max Fried issue is improving, so that's really good. That his forearm is getting better. Hopefully we'll have him back sooner than later, but I would still expect another month at the least.
Absolutely.
But what that's led to is like because it's early on in the season, and we do have some depth. Thank God that Elder has come up and been
God, Kyle Wright of last
yeah,
year and
honestly,
Ian Anderson of the year before.
it's incredible that he's come up and pitched that well, especially after having such a bad spring. Um, but yeah, we haven't had a guy step up and be consistent number 5 with all the other injuries that we have. So we've been dealing with bullpen games lately, and
Mhm.
that's pretty tough to manage. And you can't really put that on Snit because it's a tough situation, and because it's early in the season, it's a little too early for Anthopoulos to be able to make a trade that would be maximizing value for him. So after what we've seen from Vaughn Grissom or Braden Shoemake, and what we've seen from Arcia, and we locked him up to a 3-year deal for the cheap.
Yeah.
I think that Shoemake or Grissom both are on the table, and we would be able to trade them. But teams aren't wanting to bow out just yet. They want to see what they have in their players, and they want to maximize value in return as well. So some of these teams that we see struggling, those can be potential trade targets that they're going to be selling as we get closer to the deadline. I would assume probably like halfway through June, if we hear more news about what Max's return is like or what Kyle Wright's return is going to be like, we're going to probably at least pick up one starting pitcher as just a depth move.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to bring in a stud.
What kills me is like the teams like the White Sox who have some extra pitchers, they're still technically in the hunt. They're only 6.5 games back, even though they're 10 games under 500 because their division sucks. So like,
Yeah, the additional wild card slot doesn't help with that either.
no,
So
which
there,
I'm glad.
yeah,
It makes the league more competitive, and I'm okay with that. It really, the fact that we are doing as well as we are with as many injuries as we're having shows. I mean, it's promising for me to feel that way. And Dodgers are in the same boat we are. They're like the same record as us almost. They're
yeah.
also missing a couple pitchers, so they're playing. Gavin Stone tonight is pitching, um, and he has like a 9 ERA or something like that right now. So
Those are usually the guys that pitch the best against us for some reason.
yeah, for some reason, I know. I heard that on the radio today. And I was like, well, he's probably gonna go out there and have a good game. So that's
Yeah.
glad you talked about that. Glad you mentioned that the Phillies
So
got 5 runs against him last game in 4 innings.
I mean, with the injuries to the pitchers, like the starting pitchers specifically, you hope that the bullpen and the hitters can be more consistent and kind of guide you through this tough time. But Schuster did pitch really well yesterday. He got his first win. So he's
Yeah, he
kind of
pitched really well.
just spending his time on the Gwinnett bus, just going back and forth, shipped up and down. So maybe we're in a month. One of these guys steps up, either Dylan Dodd or Schuster figures it out at the big league level, or maybe even like Soroka gets called up at some point. They're slow playing it with Soroka for
Yeah.
now. He's up and down, like inconsistent in AAA
He's
right now.
Yeah, I
But
looked it up today. He's played better actually, but they're still only giving him like 4 innings. Like,
yeah,
so he had that one blow up where he gave up 6 runs. Since then, he's still settled down, but he hasn't gotten more than 4 innings yet. He's got, I think 4.2 is the most he's got.
I think the difference is that they don't want to send him up and down, kind of like they are these other guys, just because of
Right.
his experience at the big league level. They want to make sure
Yeah.
when they call him up that he's up for good.
Yeah, I get
So,
that.
maybe we'll see him at some point this year, but there's no reason to rush that.
So Anthony in the Discord, he's been having some feelings about all this going on, and as you should as a Braves fan. So
Yeah.
this is our plug right now to join the Discord if you haven't already. We'll bring you up on the pod, and we talk all week about sports. But I think he's kind of at the point where he'd rather see us just bring up some of these AAA arms, like Alan Winans or Grant Holmes. I think our pushback was, if you're trying to develop guys, it's probably not the best to keep bringing them up, putting them back down, bringing them up, putting them back down. His argument was, well, they're probably not long-term guys anyways for the Braves, but it could be long-term guys for someone else. There's still trade targets. It's better. It's weird in baseball. Sometimes the unknown prospect is more valuable than the known, for sure, especially when they've come up a couple times.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why A is not calling him up.
I think what like Charette's opinion is that like you can just call up these guys that aren't really big name prospects. They're not going to be starting pitchers on your team long term. It's just a short term thing to eat innings because
Yeah.
the bullpen games are kind of killing us and exhausting the bullpen. But the opposite side of that is if you bring up a guy that doesn't really,
you're still going to have to put your bullpen in anyways. Maybe
if he's not a high enough caliber, he's not going to be able to get outs at the big league level. And then he's going to start, they might start walking people, and then you're going to have a bullpen game on your hands anyways.
Yeah.
The name to watch out for, which we brought up a couple weeks ago, is AJ Smith-Shawver. He got called up quickly from Double A to Triple A. And he's kind of the guy has the high draft pedigree, the big name prospect that we have in house right now. And he's throwing well. So if we see some consistency out of him, we know that AA isn't scared to fast track these guys into the majors. And it's worked out well in some cases, other cases maybe not so much, but why not give it a shot?
I mean, to be fair, I'm concerned too about the bullpen, but because like if you have a bullpen game every 5 games, you're having a bullpen game, you're going to reach your bullpen inning number by probably into July, and you don't want that. Especially like last year, I remember we were not pitching Kenley Jensen some days because we were trying to keep innings down, and now this year it seems like we're throwing that out the window. It's like this is all we got is to get through this.
It's tough, and like there's a bunch of guys that we didn't even know coming into the year, like Danny Young or Michael Tonkin, that are throwing a lot of innings, and they're trying to just get through it. But it's kind of it's a exponential problem. So when you have these bullpen games, and then pitchers aren't going as deep into the games as you want them to, aren't covering enough innings, or if we're giving up a lot of runs, that's going to up the pitch count. And then later on in the week, it's like it's like a domino effect, I suppose, that later on in the week, like these guys are a little bit more tired than they would have been normally, and that leads to a worse performance, and then that just continues and it cycles on and on. And it sucks that like feels like everybody got healthy for like one day, and then it's like, oh, Max Fried and Kyle Wright in the same day, and then nobody got to settle into their normal roles really in
Yeah.
the bullpen, and it's kind of been just weird still. But
So Hayden, it's just one inning, man. Why can't they just ice that arm and go again? What's going on here?
I mean, it's just a delicate process, I suppose, of how they train. Especially like closing pitchers or guys that pitch one inning specifically. It's hard for them to. It's like it's a mindset, and it's also how you throw the ball is a little bit different. Like,
It wears their arm out.
yeah, so like if you're pitching for one inning, you're gonna let it rip no matter what, because you're probably gonna have at least one day off, or like if you pitch 2 days in a row, then you'll have a day off after throwing one
Right.
inning. It's the high stress innings is what they call it. So like, especially even for starting pitchers, if they're in a jam early in the game, they're gonna let it rip a little bit harder than if they're just like trying to get through 6 innings, right? Because they want to
Right,
make sure they
right.
don't give up any runs, and it's the same kind of thing
Yeah.
with closers or late inning guys. They let it rip normally, and they don't know how to pace themselves per se. And if they try to pace themselves, or if they're fatigued, then
Their stuff's not going to be as good.
it's not going to be
Yeah.
as good, and they don't really know exactly how to play that.
Yeah. I'm
But
on your boat too with the Soroke show. I do think they're going to call him up within the next month. I think I'm hoping he's our solution. Like I'm hoping they're just waiting for him to be at the spot where they feel comfortable with him, because I think once, like you're right, once they do call him up, they're going to want him to stay up here.
could be.
And what a great, like, if this plays out that way, what a great narrative. Like he's goes away because of injury and he's been battling, and he comes back because someone else is injured and he gets his spot back hurt. I don't know how it might work out, but I would love to see it. Because
Yeah,
we're hurting. We need it.
that's all sports really. It's about you have to be prepared, but it's also about opportunity, and sometimes you have to
Yeah.
be lucky.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see some guys that get multiple opportunities like that because of injuries. But yeah, I mean, the other option is we could wait and trade closer to the deadline. The teams to watch out for and the players to watch out for. What I typically do, I'm looking on Sports Track.
Expiring contracts.
Yeah, so like what you want to
Yeah.
look for are teams that are under 500 currently, and also players that are in the last 2 years of their current contract. So you
Yep.
can either attack and get like the last year of a veteran player, or you can find a guy that's in his arbitration year still, but is close to hitting free agency. Those are the type of guys that AA likes to target, get them in house. If they perform quickly, then he
Keep
signs
'em.
them to a long-term deal.
Yeah.
The issue with starting pitcher is that Max Fried, our ace, is still not signed to a long-term deal, so may ruffle some feathers if he does something like that with a starting pitcher. We need to re-sign Max.
I think the way our pitching is right now, whoever you bring in, you probably don't have to sign to like a massive big, because I don't think we're going
Yeah.
after an ace. I think we're going after like a Lucas Giolito guy, like someone
Gio
like
has
that.
been an ace.
But he's not anymore, right? Wouldn't you?
I
I guess he's
mean,
only 28. I guess he still
Yeah.
could be.
he could still have it.
Yeah, you're right,
He's
but,
a
like,
big name, though. I'll
he
say.
is, but he's no Max Fried.
No, I mean,
So, and if Charlie's going off the books next year, that's 20 million coming off. Like you're going to have to replace him anyway. So it's not like, you know what I mean? You're going to
Yeah.
have to sign a pitcher besides Max anyways, because we're losing Charlie, unless you're hoping that one of these young guys, Dylan Dodd or Schuster, they're the answer next year.
well, that's always the hope, is like younger, cheaper.
Yeah,
But our prospect list is depleted still, just
Right.
and it's going to take years to get back to that.
Yeah.
And then there's development on top of that, which takes time.
And my opinion is always that you can't have too much starting pitching. You can't. Like I
Yeah.
know in the Discord, shout out Sam, he was arguing, why would we trade like Grissom for a starting pitcher? Like we have enough starting pitcher. We need more relief pitchers. And my argument is, one, we don't have enough starting pitching right now at all. Like it's bad. We're in bad
Yeah.
shape. But two, you can't ever have too much starting pitching.
Right.
Like you really can't. And then once you get the playoffs, some of these starting pitchers can do long relief for you if you have to. Like they don't have to just be a starter when it comes that time. And I hate to say this because I like Von Grissom, but he's not. What is he our future at? Not shortstop. He can't field. Not second
Yeah.
base. We have Albies. Not left field. He doesn't play left field.
That's
Like-
I do wish that he would start picking up left field, and that's the coaching staff that's their decision, because he can hit. But sometimes with prospects, it's all about timing, and for him, the timing hasn't worked out. He's not quite developed enough to be a shortstop, and also we have a long-term second baseman, so neither of those positions work for him.
No.
Left field, he's not developed in left field at all. So he's going to need at least, half a season playing left field in the minor leagues to be able to get the hang of that. And to me, it's with Arcia performing and being a very consistent fielder that we need at shortstop, I don't know why you would hang on to him. Other teams, he is ready because of how well he hits.
He could go play for a lot of teams right now.
So
for sure.
I think like Vaughn demands probably a number 2 or number 3 starter, a current starter in the majors, which is pretty good value. Braden Shoemake probably provides that same value too. And that's another guy that the timing just didn't work out for, but it will with another team. And
I think we probably end up keeping one of them, and Shoemake makes more sense to keep, I think, personally, than Grissom.
Could be.
He's a better fielder.
Yeah, and he might end up being more of a utility guy or guy that comes off the bench as opposed just because he can't hit as well.
Yeah.
But if he's got decent speed, he's a good guy to come off the bench to run, and then like if we need.
And RC has been such an awesome surprise. Like not that we thought he was gonna be bad, because honestly he's played well for us this whole time, but he's a former high pick prospect, and he's finally starting to he had some flashes when he was with Milwaukee, but he's really getting his chance here. He's batting 310 this year. He's been
it's
been a
great
year.
Yeah, every week basically people tweet out the comparison between Dansby and Arcia, and Arcia is outplaying him, even though he has half the at bats. He has more home runs and RBIs. So that's encouraging to see. And it makes AA look like a genius.
He is a genius. He's so good at his job.
10 steps ahead.
Always. So I don't know. I'm worried about starting pitching, but I'm not worried about our Braves. We still have the highest % chance to make it to the World Series of any team in baseball, and it's by 10%. We have a 20% chance to make the World Series.
I still don't like that.
It's so high.
It's too early, and it's very high. No team has a 20% chance. It's maybe 10% for the absolute best team, but yeah, anything above that, I'm well. The playoff baseball just weeds out teams, even the best ones, like
it
us,
does.
like the Braves and the Dodgers last year immediately. And then the Mets were also out, and they were one of the best teams last year as well. So
it does.
You just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't. I don't know. Baseball is fun for that reason, but I love seeing us up there though. It's cool that we finally have a good team that's getting notarized for being a good, getting known to be a good team nationally. I think, and maybe the Braves have always been kind of that because they actually have a brand name unlike the rest of Atlanta sports. But
yeah,
it is cool.
The Braves have been so consistently good, and then with TBS and Ted Turner widely viewed as well, so that helps. But yeah, we're the team that demands respect in Atlanta. Fortunately, we have one of those. As for the other teams, maybe not so much.
We're not there, man. Not there.
One of the teams that hasn't demanded enough respect is probably the Hawks.
Yeah.
You want to talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, let's get into the Hawks. So for the Hawks, if you are an avid hoop head and you listen to the Old Man of the Three, that's JJ Redick's podcast. Yeah, you might have heard this last week. Kevin Herter was on there, former Hawks. Light the beam this year with Sacramento Kings as they made the playoffs for the first time. Longest drought in sport or in any sports for playoffs, 20-some years.
They got put out in the first round, right?
They did, but they played last year. They played the former
Lakers. Golden State.
No, they played Golden State. So they played the former champs, and they took them to 7 games. They went 7. So, I mean, it was a good bout they had. But yeah, he came out and said, he was asked about what happened with the Hawks. He said, and they were talking about the Eastern Conference Finals run. He said, well, that was almost the start of our downfall, was the run that we went on. Herter told JJ. We won before we were expected to win, or before we should have won, let's call it. That just put a fast forward on our whole timeline. And I don't think as a team, as a whole, we were fully at that point. The Hawks have gone 84-80 since then, getting bounced twice in the first round. He said the expectations for that team just went through the roof for the next year because we made a conference finals, and it was conference finals or bust. And maybe as a unit that wasn't where we were at yet. And I'll be honest, and if Aaron was here, he would echo this. I'm guilty for that. I'm guilty for saying, oh, expectations just went through the roof because I thought we were there. Based on that run we had, it seemed like we were there. But listening to Herter and actually, That's the thing, is all of our opinions are based on the outside. You don't know what's going on inside. It could be like we see every year a team go on a crazy run that probably wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Hell, I talk about it in the NFL. It happens all the time in the playoffs because
Oh
it
yeah.
is a best of one. It's a best of one. It doesn't. I'm telling you right now, Super Bowl winner is not always the best team. I'm just
Oh
going to say
no.
it. It's not
Yeah.
always the best team. I think the other sports more often than not have the best team winning it all. But the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
it's not always the best team. And now a lot of times it is, but sometimes it's not. And it's part of it. It's part of a best of one. But I just wanted to talk about this because I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I think there was a lot of unfair expectations for them. And John Collins came out when talking about the Nate McMillan thing later and said that Nate McMillan's more for a team that's mature ready, where they just weren't there yet. It's a bunch of young guys. Like you think about John Collins is one of the oldest guys on the team, and he was still only like in his 5th year or something like that at that point,
Jeez.
which is relatively young NBA wise.
Yeah.
Because I think LeBron year 18, or is that right? Year 18 or year 20? I don't know. He's
Been
been
a
in the
long
league
time.
forever. I think it's year 20 actually. Sorry, he's 38. Year 20. Yeah. So if you think about it, NBA players typically hit their prime between year 5 and 7, and they stay in their prime from like year 7 till year 13, 14. It's been getting later actually. And someone like LeBron's broken all the definition of what that looks like.
He's an
But
outlier for sure.
he is. But I think there's a lot of truth in this, and I think it sucks that happens in sports sometimes, because I liked the core we had there, and that run did give unfair expectations. And that if you look at the Heat, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is if you look at the Heat, I kind of want to talk about where they're at now, as they are one game away from going to the finals as the 8th seed.
I'm curious, do you feel like the Heat were a team that also overperformed too quickly? Because we're talking about the COVID year. They were in the finals 2 years ago and they lost to the Lakers, right?
Yeah, in 2020. Yeah, they did. And well, I won't say they overperformed, because last year they were the number one seed coming out of the playoffs, or coming into the playoffs of the
Yeah.
East. And they played like the best team in basketball. They did get bounced by the Celtics last year. I don't think it's that they overperformed. I actually think part of what is so good about their success and why they're successful is their continuity they've had over the last 3 or 4 years. The only player they lost from last year's team was PJ Tucker, yeah, who's now playing for the Philly, who are on vacation now. But that's the only player that really lost, and it was a big loss for them, and that's why you kind of saw them go down from the first seed all the way to 8. But if we're going to be honest about it, part of the reason they're in the Eastern Conference Finals right now is part of it's luck, grit, coaching, continuity, and Jimmy buckets. And like I want to talk a little bit about this. The continuity they've had, because the team's been the same base team since that 2020 run, helps them, and has helped them work through tough times. And Eric Spoelstra is the definition of continuity. He's the best coach in the NBA right now. He is what we talk about all the time. Coaching doesn't matter except for it does in the NBA, and he's the definition of when it matters.
Yeah.
He's definitely out coaching the hell out of Missoula right now in these playoffs. He's making them look dumb.
What do you think? They have one superstar really with Jimmy Butler, and then
Yeah, that's it. Bam Adebayo is above average, and he's their second best player, and I would say he's probably a top 30 player.
Jeez.
So it helps. Like the same with the Hawks. The Hawks are the same way. Trae Young's your superstar, and then DeJounte Murray's a top 30 player. So like we're kind of in a similar boat. The difference is the rest of their team's built around those guys. They're defensive minded. They're good shooters. They're gritty. And they're not afraid to do all the dirty work that the Hawks are so bad about. Like we're so bad. And then if you also think about it, like DeAndre Hunter is our small forward. He's kind of a probably replacement player. Like I don't think he starts on a lot of different teams. And
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler and a lot of these teams' best players start at that position. So it's hard when you're at a deficit at one of the key positions in basketball. The reason I say luck is because, like I was talking about earlier, Antetokounmpo got hurt in that series. I do not think the Heat, they might get through the Bucks, maybe. I don't think they get as far as they have the way they have without that. Because if you look at their games, they took the Knicks to, it took them 6 games to beat the Knicks, but they beat the Bucks in 5. And now what that does for you is, if you look at the Celtics, they had to go to 6 and 7 in the last 2 series. And the Hawks were scrappy. Like it was a 6-game series, but it was a scrappy 6-game series. 76ers take them all the way to 7. So that by the time they get to the Heat, they're a little tired. Whereas it's a little bit opposite for the Heat Knicks series. And then especially with the Bucks having, so you get more time off, and that time off does matter.
Yeah.
I really do think it matters.
Load management.
And then the other luck part, it's not really luck, but if you Miami was down 3 points with 3 minutes left in the play-in game against Chicago, and they ended up winning that game by double digits. And it's just like that run has really set the
Wow.
tone, set the pace for the rest of this playoff series for them. So what I'm trying to compare here is that I do think the Hawks had unfair expectations, but like those expectations happen because you win. Winning always raises expectations.
Yeah.
But sometimes you would wish in sports there was a little bit more patience, especially when your star at that point is only in year 4. Or year 3 going into year 4, like, can you practice a little bit more patience to maybe see if you can develop these guys a little more? But Nate McMillan was never the guy for that. We've talked about that several times, how he
Yeah.
wasn't. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting conversation. And I think Kevin Herter pointed out, like, I like the peel back of the curtain and be able to hear what he has to say about that. Cause I mean, he's a instrumental part of the team.
Yeah. Makes sense. But
I mean, I
yeah.
think you see it all the time in sports. I think you see overachieving leading to expectations that aren't fair, or whether they're fair or not, they become the expectations.
Well, hopefully we go for more of an approach now that we have a core, like that we
Yes.
build around from here without more turnover. So we have Trey
Yes.
Young, we have Quinn
Be a
Snyder.
Quinn Snyder. And that's a big deal. And I think you hear all the time heat culture. And that all comes from Eric Spoelstra. He's been their coach for over 10 years now. He's been with their organization for 20 years.
Yeah, and maybe that just proves like, it can be beneficial to hold on to these guys longer than you think, which is interesting because like Coach Bud was with the Hawks when we were the number 1 seed back in
Yeah.
2015 or something like that.
He left us because of there's a long like history of what all happened there. And our GM at the time had said some remarks that were racist. And he says he was reading a tweet or reading a message or whatever it was, but he got fired, and then Bud became the GM when he shouldn't have been, and he did a horrible job creating the roster. And then he ended up just leaving us to go to the Bucks. And why not? I mean, you go to have the best player in the
Well, and now a couple
world.
of years off of him winning a championship with the Bucks, he got let go already too because they
And it was
which is
I just
I don't know why
super
these guys
unfair.
that have won championships or proven winners, they don't get more leash, I guess. Because you can like, what's a better situation? And I know the Spurs have not been good in a couple of years, but Greg Popovich, I mean, he led the Spurs along with Tim Duncan for so many years.
Yeah, and
they
were
were
great.
always relevant. And now you see the same thing
Yeah.
with the Heat and Eric Spoelstra and getting these teams to overperform. And it makes such a difference to have a core of players that
Yeah.
are going to be there. And
Right.
so,
Spoelstra, he's been in the finals once since LeBron's been there, but he hasn't won a final since LeBron, but they haven't fired him because
Yeah.
Pat Riley understands. He understands the continuity, but he also understands what he has in Spoelstra. And Spoelstra, like I said, he's more than just a coach there. He's ingrained in the culture. He's part of the front office. He's part of and that matters.
it's
All that stuff
interesting
matters.
because like back when LeBron was there, it wasn't really, he wasn't given recognition as much, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even know if until recently people really thought that he was the best coach that LeBron had played for. But I think looking back through his career now, he
It's not even
definitely
close.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not even close.
Which is super interesting.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you can also say the same about Jimmy Buckets. Like, he's been tossed around the league. Got drafted by the Bulls, 30th pick overall. Then he ended up going to, I can't remember if it was Minnesota first or the 76ers first, but he played for both of those teams before he ended up in the Heat. And Minnesota refused to pay him, and so they went with Cat. And it's like, well, y'all made a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Like, I mean, because playoff Jimmy's a thing. I mean, he's ascended this playoffs. And not take away anything from Nikola Jokic, he's also played super well. I know last week we talked about what we thought would happen. Both things I thought would happen haven't happened at all. The Celtics are down 3-0, and then the Lakers are also down 3-0. I'll be honest, the Lakers, it's a very different series, though. It'd be very, you'd be diminishing the Lakers' effort if you said, oh, they're about to get swept, because every game's been close. So they lost the first game by 6, lost the second game by 5, and they lost this last game by 11. But it was a really close game until like the last minute.
Yeah.
Every game's been close, and I'll be honest, it's taken a whole team effort for the Nuggets to win those games. And every other Davis. Anthony Davis, he like his name is, he's been every other game not there. So we'll see if that ends tonight. I actually don't think the Lakers will get swept, but if they do, I don't think it's in the world. A lot of people are saying, like, is this LeBron? Does it tarnish his legacy? No, it's his 20th year. They just beat the Golden State Warriors, who are coming off the championship of last year. Like, that was the biggest series. If he loses in the Western Conference Finals, good for him. Like,
I mean, how many finals did he make in a row? Like,
oh yeah. Who cares,
it was like
dude?
6 or
The Michael
more.
Jordan thing too is people act like he won those 6 in a row, where he won 3 in a row, retired for a year and a half, 2 years, and then won 3 more in a row, and then retired again for a couple of years, and then came back and wasn't great. Like,
Yeah.
people forget about that. And LeBron, what he's done for 20 years has just been incredible. So,
Yeah.
and nothing diminishes what he's done. His legacy is already set in stone. He's,
Yes.
to me, the best to ever play. But I understand those who want to argue Michael Jordan, and we can have that argument another day.
Well, speaking of LeBron James, let's talk about who could potentially be the number 1 pick of this
Oh
year's
yeah,
NBA draft. And the lottery just happened last week, to a lot of fans' dismay.
yeah. So
Who won
so
the lottery this year?
so the Spurs won the lottery. They will be drafting Victor Wembanyama, which is the crazy part about this is Victor Wembanyama is from France. Their last Spurs have been known to have great French players, and Tony Parker, who is one of the most notable ones. So this is like where all of France wanted him to end up playing for the Spurs,
Yeah.
and it just happened to work out that way. Some people want to say it's rigged. I heard a radio show talk about it, just talk about all the reasons they think it's rigged. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if him landing the Spurs shows that it's rigged or not. I,
What was their
I
percentage? Like, were
it was
they
tied for the best. They were tied for the
okay?
best percentage to get him.
So, that means that they had like a fair shot at it. It's not
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and if you're looking at like league parity, it honestly is really good that he went to the Spurs. There were a couple of teams where if he would have went there, like if he's as good as they say he's going to be, like if he is the next LeBron, because like that's where he's at when you're talking
Wow.
about his like how highly touted he is. That is how highly touted he is. He's the best prospect since LeBron James. And
Damn.
some people argue he's better. I don't know if he is. He's 7'5" and can shoot a 3 and has handles like a point guard. So
Oh my god.
yeah,
That's
so
ridiculous.
he could be better than LeBron as all things said and done. If you look at just his physical tools, he is small, like thin. So
He'll
you
fill
worry about
out.
that in the NBA. Yeah, you want him to.
How
LeBron
old
can.
is he? Is he 18? Or
I
is
don't
he
actually know.
is he played a couple years like in the European
Victor.
League now?
So Victor Biana age, he is 19.
I
Something
mean,
impressive is he actually has averaged a double-double in Europe, averaging 21 points a game. And you're like, well, that doesn't sound like many points. 21 points a game in European basketball, professional basketball is a shit ton of points. Like Luka didn't even average that many points a game when he played over there.
it's just a different game. They
Just
they
different. It's a
spread the
different
ball around a little bit more probably.
defense is a little more. It's officiated a little differently, so they can be a little bit more. I guess
Physical.
physical in defense. So if you look at the Spurs, their last winning season came in 2018. So it's been 4 losing seasons in a row. I'm fine with them getting Victor Wembanyama because they don't win instantly. They're not a plug and play. All right, now we can go to the finals. They're a team that still have to build around them. Like, yes, it will turn them around. And I don't think this is going to be like the Tim Duncan turnaround. So if you're not aware of this, when Tim Duncan got drafted by the Spurs, which this is pretty crazy, they were 20-62 the year they drafted him,
Wow.
or the year before they drafted him. And they drafted him, and then they went 56-26 the next year.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was like the best turnaround ever. Part of it is because they actually had some other good players on that team as well that were injured the year before. Because the year before that they were 59-23. So it was weird. They were like 62-20, 59-23, then 20-62. Draft Tim Duncan, and then right back up to being great.
Dang.
Obviously, they've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finals with Tim Duncan, including being the Heat and LeBron in one of them. It is weird that every time I feel like the Spurs get the first overall pick, they do get like a generational talent. So Tim Duncan being the last one. The one before that, his name escapes me right now. Is Robinson? Hold up. I don't want to get this wrong.
That sounds right.
Duncan Robinson, is that it?
It's a little before our time.
It is. I think it's Duncan Robinson though. Oh wait, no, that's not him. Hold up. Spurs.
They got the flat top.
It is Duncan Robinson.
Oh, nice.
I am right. Cool. So wait, no. Twin Towers. It is David Robinson. I was close. David Robinson. So they were called the Twin Towers back in the day, him and Tim Duncan. So it is weird that they do get generational talent, but I don't know. This doesn't make me feel like it is rigged, but something I want to bring up though is because a lot of people do. And we had Anthony in the Discord talking about it. It's been all over radios. People think it's rigged. And the people always like to point back to the frozen envelope, which what this was back in the 80s. The Knicks have been bad for years. NBA popularity was going down. This is back when like big basketball won games back then. It wasn't shooting; it was the big guys
Right.
dominating the post. Patrick Ewing was the #1 pick coming out of college, and he had just won a NCAA championship for Georgetown the year before that. And so Georgetown, as you know, is up in that kind of area. I guess it's DC, right? Georgetown, I think.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
that
so.
sounds right. Yeah.
Around that. But yeah, so New York ends up getting the first pick in the draft, and they say it's a frozen envelope or a folded envelope, so that way David Stern could pick out which one was the Knicks. Because that was the weird part about it. It's in like a ball, a cylinder, and he reaches in there and grabs an envelope. And so I guess my question is for you is, does the lottery, because of the way it is that why people think it's rigged? Because unlike every other sport where it's like, all right, you're the last place, you get the first pick. This one, there out of all sports, you can rig it. Like the lottery is riggable because of that, because of the fact that
It's like based on a percentage. It's not just straightforward.
Right. And it's not like the ping pong balls where you see it get popped out, pop up. Like I kind of like that. Like this year was online. Like it was like a generated. So like you could say like, well, what if they hack the code, or what if like, or what if they manipulate the code to make it where it's going to the Spurs? Like you don't know. They're not peeling back to let you see how this works. So I see why people are very suspect of it.
I see both sides of it though, because like you could say it's like the most fair system, or like it doesn't promote as much tanking, even though we've seen that in the NBA still at times. But yeah, it discourages it really, because you could be the worst team and tank and still not get the best pick, which I kind of like that factor.
Yeah.
But I don't know. At the same time, it feels like maybe big market teams or like historically good teams do end up winning the draft lottery, or like the Cavs, they won twice. Like it feels uneven.
Won twice, yeah.
I think in years past I've said like it needs to be weighed differently. Like if you've gotten a top like a #1 overall pick that in the past 5 years or something like that, that needs to affect your win percentage. Yeah. It just means like you haven't used that pick, or like you fucked up that pick. You shouldn't get it again. And like Atlanta never gets the #1 overall pick, even though we've been awful for years and years.
Yep.
And so it feels unfair, and it feels like, some of these teams that like maybe, I don't know, like who did the Cavs take the second time? Kyrie?
No, Kyrie was the first time.
Well, they had,
Andrew Wiggins. No, it was the other guy.
Did they get it 3 times? They got LeBron.
Yeah, so LeBron was 2000 early 2000s, but then they got it twice again. They got it twice again. It might have been Andrew Wiggins. Let's see, Cavs first overall picks. LeBron was 2003, Kyrie was 2011, and Anthony Bennett was 2013, and then Andrew Wiggins was 2014.
They had it 4 times?
Yeah.
What the hell? See, like that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
but that's weird though. Like, here's my thing is, so the guy was arguing that the Spurs getting the first overall pick was like, it's rigged because it's the Spurs. And I'm like, well, one, the Spurs aren't a big market. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
but they're a historical team.
Right, they are. But the Cavs aren't a historical team. LeBron's the only reason anyone even knows about them.
That one would be like narrative driven. So like, with them getting Kyrie and then like getting like decent on their own again, that's what lured him back to Cleveland to actually get a championship, which that was, and they went to multiple finals together.
Yeah, and they ended up trading Andrew Wiggins for
Kevin Love.
For Kevin Love, yeah. And that's the crazy part. Anthony Bennett was such a bust that they got the year before that, like literally busted in the first year. So yeah, I don't know. It is weird. And I guess you're right in some ways that that's that. So here's my thing. I don't think it's rigged, but it's the fact that it is riggable, and you can, like you said, you can make a narrative driven, or you can do it for the market, or you can do it for the historic aspect of it. There's always going to be that question.
There's a lack of transparency about the process that creates issues. But I mean, until they decide to open that up,
I think the only way it would work for me is if they hand count the ping pong balls. They put them in the ball, so that way the odds are all correct, and they put them in there on live TV. And then they have a kid, like a little kid, go up there, and he get I want members of the audience to go up there and blindfold and grab or something.
And they don't even have to air like putting the correct amount of balls in there. But
well, they didn't even air it this year. They didn't
just
air
live
anything.
stream like, okay, here's one. This is this team. Here's another one. This team.
Yeah.
Like to get the odds correct or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if they're just running in like, I don't know, like a random generator that you can assign percentages to or something. I like to imagine they just like Googled like free online generator or
name generator,
random generator,
odd generator. Yeah.
But it just like they need to show everybody what's happening if they don't want to have this discussion because it's a cool process. I actually enjoy that. It's a lot of like kind of like a show, like a game show almost that they're doing, but it's kind of like a quirky thing that they do that other sports don't.
Yeah, well, it's the other sport that does do it. Actually, is hockey. So NHL is the one other sport that has a lottery, and so this year, the Chicago Blackhawks, who are historic, they're part of the original six.
The Black what?
Blackhawks, Chicago Blackhawks. Okay. Yeah, yeah, not what you thought I said. They are historic. They're one of the original six NHL teams, which is a big deal for hockey. They're one of the major market teams. They had the third best chances of getting the first overall pick. And wouldn't you know, the best prospect in hockey history is in this year's draft. And guess who gets the first pick? Chicago. So over Anaheim and over Columbus, who had both better odds than them to get it. So people this year were also saying that's rigged. And I mean, I have a really good friend at work who loves hockey. It's his favorite sport. Chicago's his favorite team, and he's like sus. He says it's very sus that they got it. And I know the odds are there, like it could happen. It's 11.5% chance they could have got the first pick. Anaheim had an 18.5% chance, and Columbus had a 13.5% chance, but Chicago ended up getting it. It is a little sus when that stuff happens.
It's how percentages work, though. Like
it is. I mean, but
the only other option is to like. I don't even know what you can do really besides just change it to like the worst team gets the first pick. Then that takes away like their legacy.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. It's odd. And it's one of those things where it's like, in principle, everyone agrees that no, that makes sense. And then when it happens, everyone's like, no, that has to be rigged. It has to be rigged. So I don't know. It is interesting. It's funny how that works. I don't know. Let us know in the comments, guys, if you are pro lottery or against lottery, or if you're pro Victor Wembanyama going to the Spurs. I think it's great for the NBA that he's going there. So overall, I mean, if that's the narrative they wanted, they picked the right narrative to go with because it is great. Like it is the best landing spot for him. It's best for the NBA when it comes to parity. And for Chicago, they've been bad the last couple of years. So the fact that this is for hockey in the sense that they're getting the best prospect, and it's good for the sport of hockey when Chicago is good. So
yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of another Atlanta sports team that rarely gets the number 1 overall pick,
Falcons.
Dude, yeah, they don't.
When's the last time
Matt Ryan was pick number 2, I think, or 3. He was pick number 3. I think that was the closest we've been. Let's see, Falcons.
It's Mike Vick
overall. Wait, what should I say? Falcons
number 1 overall draft pick.
All right, so Falcons have selected number 1 overall 4 times. Tommy Nobis, Steve Bartowski, Andre Bruce, and Michael Vick.
Dude, so we haven't had a first overall pick since 2002. Is that right?
Yeah, and we've had 7 losing seasons in the last. Like we've been bad. Like don't get me wrong though. We're also going through our best stretch of franchise history too in that period of time. So it makes sense a little bit, but. In our last 10 years, we've had 7 losing seasons in our last 10 years. And that includes our Super Bowl run. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
That's bad. Oh, it's a bad look.
That's probably why we haven't won a Super Bowl as a franchise. It's interesting. Maybe if there was a lottery for NFL, that should be considered part of the equation is like this. There needs to be a whole algorithm of like, these are all the different factors and like, almost nobody would be able to understand what's going on, but like the amount of titles that a team has won should hurt. Yes. Yeah. So like the Spurs should be hurt by the fact that they've won so many titles instead of helped.
But then people would argue, well, why would you punish a team for the past when then the present, they've been really bad because the Spurs have been one of the worst teams in basketball.
If
the
I
last
was
4
an
years.
if I was an owner, I would be like, what the hell? Why can't I build any? Because it goes on for years and years, right? So because the Spurs were so good in the early 2000s,
Are you saying this is an institutional problem?
no, I don't know.
Systematic? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what either of those mean, and I'm just gonna ignore it. You're throwing a lot of big words at me, and I feel threatened.
I feel threatened. I don't like it. I don't like how I feel.
But I mean, I don't know. It just like I was saying, the Spurs winning all those times in the early 2000s. Now they're like a glorified franchise, and
Right, it's
as opposed to like the
shame.
Hornets or like the Hawks.
The Hawks, yeah, the Hawks who don't win, yeah.
So like, yeah, maybe the percentage should be higher for teams that haven't won a finals or haven't won a Super Bowl. But
that would mean you'd want. But the thing is, these leagues want their better teams, these historic teams, these teams that have big markets. They want them to do better. They they haven't seen them.
There's bigger fan bases because they're good.
There's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake in sponsorships and advertising deals and TV deals and all that because of these. And that's why a lot of people think they are rigged.
But when you get a random team that wins, like, I don't know, who's a good example? Like
What's better
Royals.
for baseball to win? The Cubs or the Guardians to win?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because like the Cubs are a historical franchise, right? They are, even though they have sucked a lot of the time. Yeah. But, the Guardians who have never won, I don't know. Well,
I don't know if they
have. It's been a really long time. It's been 40 something years. I think they're the longest drought. But that raises a new type of fan. So like a kid growing up and they see the Guardians win a World Series.
Well, now you're thinking long term, Hayden. We don't do that.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, money, cash now. We want the money tomorrow.
That's also true. Yeah, and then
or today actually. So I mean, I know I get what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I think it's best for the sport. But what's best for the sport and what's best for the money now, and that's why there's arguments that it's rigged. Let us know. Like I don't even know how to feel about it. I'm 50-50 if it's rigged or not. It makes sense that it can make sense that it is, but I also like to think in the fairness of sports and that it's not. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of money behind all of this. So,
anyways, let's get back into the Falcons. I don't even know where
Falcons. We were talking about draft picks. So for the Falcons, first off, everyone's training camp darling from last year, Jared Bernhardt, Feel the Burn. He retired today. So I guess he saw the writing on the wall that he probably wasn't going to get much playing time. He is a former lacrosse national champion, or I guess he won professionally too, in America, lacrosse champion. And so he retired today. So Feel the Burn won't be happening this year. I was kind of hoping he'd make the roster as wide receiver 5. Did not happen. And to replace him, Falcons signed wide receiver. We signed JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who was a former high. He was drafted really high by the Eagles. He played most recently with the Seahawks. So he came in, another huge guy. We love our big receivers. So he will be competing for wide receiver 4 or 5, something like that. It doesn't really matter. We've talked about it. Wide receiver 2, all that stuff doesn't really matter for the Falcons because of the roster we do have and the depth chart we have and the way we're going to try to win.
Yeah. Mostly run game. Or better be.
Well, that and tight ends too. Like you're gonna Kyle Pitts is going to be your wide receiver too.
Yeah.
So
what else is going on with the Falcons? I feel like it's kind of sleepy
OTA
season.
is starting. Desmond Ridder has been on some interviews recently, so he threw out the first pitch yesterday. If you're watching that, and then he was on at the Braves game, and he was either on Fox Sports or ESPN, or he was on an interview. He had a 9-minute interview somewhere. I watched it on Twitter today. Hey. They're asking questions about how it feels like that the Falcons passed over Lamar Jackson to go with him. I was like, we didn't really have a chance.
That's
Lamar
a bit
Jackson.
Presumptuous.
Yeah, that's not a really good that's not what happened, but okay. But yeah,
Lamar Jackson obviously wasn't actually available.
Yes, we all know that. So
it wasn't an open market.
Exactly. So nothing besides that's really going on right now with the Falcons. You're going to I think a lot of people are kind of hoping that Corey Davis is trade target, but Jets insider Frank, he let me know he doesn't think the Jets will trade or cut Corey Davis. He said because Corey Davis is like their wide receiver 3. I looked up the roster though. He's technically wide receiver 4 because you got Garrett Wilson will be 1, Alan Lazard's 2,
Yep.
Their slot is now Miko Hardman. That's 3. So Corey Davis is 4 there. And $10.5 million for your wide receiver 4 is a lot of money to be paying wide receiver 4.
Interesting. I'd say he's wide receiver 3.5 because
Because Miko
he and
Hardman.
McColl will be in different sets. So like if they're like
Yeah.
going with a deep ball, McColl's going to be in. But like if it's a short yardage situation,
I think it's
want the big
opposite.
man. Oh, really? Like
Yeah, Corey Davis has burners, dude. He's fast for a
oh,
bigger guy. I'm pretty sure. Let me check. Actually, Corey Davis 40 times.
I just feel like we haven't seen McColl in like short situations really.
Yeah,
Maybe like jet or wheel routes or I don't know.
Corey Davis runs a 4.48.
What 10 years ago when he was drafted?
2009, yeah, man.
No, it wasn't 2009. When did he get drafted? 2016.
2017.
Ah, it's right there.
Yeah.
Dang.
Hey, I mean, he could probably still turn it on. I don't know. So he would be my ideal target, but I don't want to trade for him. I don't want to pay $10.5 million for Corey Davis. So if they cut him, sign me up. Other guys I'd be interested in are Hunter Renfro, also from Vegas. We've got Matt Collins, but Hunter Renfro would be great here. And then honestly, besides that,
I was told that Bijan is such a good receiver. We don't need a slot receiver. Bijan will just be our slot receiver.
Well, that's the thing. I don't care. Personally, I don't think we do. I really don't see it as an issue. But the thing is depth. You always need depth, though. Yeah. So like that's the only reason I think we should go out and get somebody. But to me, it doesn't have to be anyone of note. Like it just needs to be someone who can play.
Like, are you satisfied that Matt Collins is essentially our wide receiver 3, or honestly, maybe
he's
wide
our 2.
receiver 4?
No, he's our 2.
I'm saying as in like Kyle Pitts is our wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
our second option. Okay, I guess I should say like our offensive options.
Yeah, no, I am. He had 57 receptions last year for 690 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's pretty good.
I wonder if our first round draft pick next year is going to be a wide receiver. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. We are going to draft offensive skill position, then that's what we need. We need like a solid wide receiver 2. Drake will be 3 years in. Kyle will be 4.
4, yeah, and I don't know if
maybe we'll just take another tight end to replace.
No, let's take Brock Bowers.
Oh, holy shit, dude, that'd be awesome.
I hope we're not in position.
We better not
Brock
be that
Bowers
high
next year. Yeah, I hope we're not.
He's got to be top 5 pick, right? He's a freak. He's a freak, and it's like as a Georgia homer, obviously. But
yeah, no, but he should be though.
Everybody has to acknowledge how good he is.
Yeah, because he's like he can do. This is a weird comparison here, but you know Ben Skoronski or the small wide receiver for the Rams. He's not that great, but they use him like in a lot of different positions. He's like a much better version of him. Like Brock Bowers doesn't come in just as a tight end. He's like Kyle Pitts, but in a different way than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts kind of takes you over the top. Brock Bowers is going to do all the small stuff, intermediate stuff, and can take it over the top. Like
the guy took a jet sweep for like a 70-yard touchdown this year as a tight end. That doesn't happen. That's not natural. It's not right.
What do you think his 40 time is?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think they do it yet until
not until they start like practicing for for draft.
I don't know. He's got burners though. Like I don't know if he's Kyle Pitts fast because Kyle Pitts is
what'd he run, a 4.5?
No, 4.4.
Dude, if he might run a 4.4.
Yeah, Brock Bowers might run a 4.4.
He breaks away from people. I'd like to see him like in pads. What does he run a 40 in? Because like I feel like he's a guy like he puts the helmet on and then he's like he gets faster for some reason.
Oh yeah, right. Like he has that.
It's incredible the way like tight ends don't have that pull away speed. I'm trying to think of another guy like maybe Gronk in a different way. He's more of like in his prime, Gronk was like a rough and tumble. Like he had that
there's
speed.
No tight end.
But it's like more of a stride thing.
Right. There's no tight end with that.
I'm trying to think. Maybe like a Vernon Davis.
Jimmy Graham? No, Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis would be.
He had burners Vernon like Davis. That back like when they were in this like making runs with Alex Smith.
Vernon Davis ran a 4.38.
Okay. That's a good comparison then.
That is. Vernon Davis, he's got that pull away speed. Wow. Yeah, I forgot about him, dude.
Back
Vernon
in the Colin Kaepernick years.
Yes.
Like, in San Francisco. He was legit.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I would love to see that. But it would also be ridiculous if we were at that high.
No, if we're that high, we better not be taking a damn tight end.
We have started seeing some better projections coming out about like around the schedule next year.
Yeah, so
a lot of people are a lot of sources are projecting that the Falcons will win the division, which is what we have said that we should based on continuity,
absolutely,
and talent that we've brought in the
talk about that
in the offseason. Yeah, get into
So
it.
Falcons win-loss record. This is a way too early win-loss record because I don't think the roster, like, although we've done the draft and we've had major free agency, there's still some free agents out there. Like, there's still some names out there that I think the Falcons might go after. Falcons are looking around $10 million left, and you probably want to save $5 million of that during the season emergency stuff. So
Give
I'm
me
thinking
15 names that we might go after right now.
15. My God.
Give me 35 names.
I'll tell you some names that are
of
still out there.
guys we might
Like
go after.
Clowney's still out there.
Oh,
Someone you
that's
could pick
interesting.
up. You have no, I don't think we'll go for this, but Nakamaka Sue's still out there. There, like my point is, there's some veterans still out there
Yeah.
who are looking to sign later, and I think the Falcons may go after one or two of those. Maybe at the receiver position, not exactly sure.
Might be more appealing than in past seasons too, because like you get veteran players like that. Most of the time, they're wanting to try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
not saying we're a contender this year for the Super Bowl per se, but we're in the right direction. That's like why Calais Campbell came and played for us.
Yeah, if you look at the NFC too, it's a much easier division than the AFC right now. And like we've talked about, if you're just trying to get to, like once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen, especially if you're kind of hot going in. The Falcons are in a good spot for that. We're in a really good spot for that.
Yeah.
If Desmond Ridder and like Calais Campbell said in his like all of his different interviews he's done, that part of the reason he's coming is because he believes in Desmond Ridder. Like he does enough to believe that you can get to the playoffs with him. He's not saying like, oh, he's gonna be a top 10 guy, but he's saying he can be a top 15 guy. Yeah. That's what we kind of want out of him.
If he's a top 15 passer this year, then the sky's the limit.
We're sitting pretty. Yeah, we're sitting really pretty.
Honestly, if he's top 20, we're probably extremely good.
If we're top 20, if he's top 20, we're a top 10 offense, maybe top 12. If he's top 15, we're top 7, top 8 offense.
Yeah.
And if he somehow gets like the top 12, top 10, we're a top 5 offense. Like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But everything hinges on Desmond Ridder. Like it all does hinge on Desmond Ridder. It's more important than wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 or whatever you want to call it. It's more important than a lot of those things. It all hinges on him. So if you look around, Fox Sports actually has the lowest projected record for us at 8-9.
Wow.
Yeah, which would be a major disappointment. So they had NFC South will be tightly packed again, and I have the Falcons missing the division title by 1 game again. Falcons only one true road game in their first 6 weeks, but is a tough competition. Flip a close loss at Lions, Titans, and Jets. They might be on the right track if you flip those games, is what they say. But they give it 8-9. DraftKings has our win. Like so this is for odds. They have Falcons of the highest win total in the division, or second highest behind the Saints. They give the Saints 9.5 wins. They give the Falcons 8.5 wins as their over under. I'd go over on the Falcons 8.5 wins. I'd hit that right now.
Yeah, I would. Maybe we need to find a way to gamble on sports.
Yeah, over is plus 110, under minus 130.
Might keep us in the game a little bit more.
Wait, that means the under is the leading bet, right? If it's minus 130 for under, plus 110 for over, I think negative numbers are good, right?
Oh, man.
I always thought they were.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I looked at this. So like if you bet on a team that has the negative number, then I'm pretty sure like you're betting on the favorite.
Yes. Yeah.
So that means you get less of a payout.
Right, exactly. So yeah, no, for sure. So the Falcons right now, you get more of a payout if you bet the over on DraftKings. So
yeah.
I'm smashing that right now. And I know it's way too early, but 8.5. We won 7 games 2 years in a row with Matt Ryan's corpse and a horrible team. And then last year was Marcus Mariota plus Ridder. And you won 7 both times. And this year we have the easiest, guys, listen here.
It's an incredibly
schedule.
Easy.
The easiest strength of schedule of any team. If you don't know what the schedule is right now, I'll go over it with you right this second. And I wanted to hear your win-loss just off the top of your head right now.
Read off these games real quick. I thought at least 10. 10 is the over-under for me.
That's how I'm feeling too. So, and maybe I'd change your mind here, right? Week 1, Carolina Panthers at home. Like we're the home team.
Yes, you should win that. Home game versus a rookie quarterback. Yes.
Week 2, Green Bay Packers at home.
Yes.
Jordan Love. Yeah.
They're without their best receiver and their best their career quarterback.
I think that could be a sneaky good game though. Because their defense was still pretty good last year. I'm not going to lie. Like Green Bay had a decent defense, top 15. But I agree, 2-0. Detroit Lions at Detroit. Probably a loss.
Let's give that one a loss.
Yeah, so 2-1. Week 4 at Jacksonville. But it's in London, actually. That's a toss-up for me. I'll go 2-2. Yeah, 2-2. Week 5, back home against Houston.
That's a win.
Yeah, 3-2. Week 6 at home against the Commanders.
That should be a win.
4-2. I agree. Week 7 at Tampa Bay.
I think that should be a win.
Me too. 5-2.
Tampa Bay, they're starting Baker Mayfield.
I will say this though. I think Tampa Bay has enough talent to be maybe a 1-1 kind of thing for us.
Could be.
Potentially. It depends on how they play. Like that's one of the teams I want to see. But I agree. 5-2. Week 8 at Tennessee.
I don't know enough about
It's a toss up. That's a toss up. It's a toss up for me too. I'm leaning towards a win, but we can say, what do you want though? Loss?
Yeah, sure. Let's give them a loss.
All right, 5-3. Week 9 at Minnesota. No, home against Minnesota. I think Minnesota is the biggest fraud. I think they're such a fraud. I think we win that game at home. Desmond Ritter has never lost a home game in college or the NFL.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I'll say we'll give that one a win.
6-3.
I don't believe in Kirk really.
Yeah, me neither. 6-3. All right, week 10 at Arizona.
It should be a win.
Yeah, 7-3. Then you have your bye week. Week 12.
What are we playing? We're at 7-3.
7-3.
Oh shit!
Going into bye. Yeah, week 12. Home versus the Saints.
Win.
Yeah, 8-3.
We'll have week 13 split with the Saints too.
Yeah, week 13 at the Jets.
Let's say loss.
All right, so that's 8-4. Week 14 versus Tampa at home. Do you want to split that?
Yes.
Okay, so 8-5. Week 15 at Carolina. I think we beat them twice.
I do too. Should.
So that's, what was I at? That's 9-5. Yeah, maybe, 9-5. Week 16 at home versus the Colts.
That's a win.
Yeah, 10-5. Week 17 at the Bears. I think it's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up.
I think they'll be a better team this year. But I think we could win it.
Yeah, let's say win.
All right, 11-5. And then week 18 at New Orleans.
Loss.
11-6. 11-6, guys.
I think that was being pretty generous too, to be honest. There's a lot of games of like, well, there weren't a ton of toss-ups that I was like, oh, we'll say the Falcons win that one. If it's a toss-up, I was like, oh, let's just let's go to the other team.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's a world where the Falcons may go like 14-3 this year, and it's not because of how good we are. No. It's because of how bad the schedule is, but also that we could be good.
I wonder if we run into an issue of like the Hawks a few years ago of being too good too soon, overachieve too early.
Yeah. So
maybe that's not as much of a thing in football. I don't know.
I don't think it is because, I mean, I will say this. I think, like, if you look at the Vikings last year, this is 2022 Minnesota Vikings. So if you look at the Vikings last year, they finished the year, if there ever was one, it's the Vikings from last year. They finished the year 13-4 with a negative point differential, -3.
Oh my God. How?
Yes.
That's hard to do.
It is hard to do. Absolutely. It's actually kind of ridiculous. So if you look at the Falcons, for example, if you want to compare Terry Fontenot's first year, Terry Fontenot's second year, this was a blurb about ranking GMs. I think Terry Fontenot was 21st, according to Roto Sports. We were 7-10 under Matt Ryan 2021, but more notably, we were 7-10 in 2022 with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ritter. Despite the identical records, Atlanta's point differential improved from -146 to -21. So we were much better last year. So my point is this: and as you all know this, listeners, and you, Hayden, I believe in Arthur Smith as a coach. I think he's a good coach. I do. I really do. And I think the proof's in the pudding when it comes to playing above our expectations, especially when you look at a talent perspective. And if you think about how much the Falcons improved talent this offseason, like just to think about all the names we added, especially on the defensive side, I really do. And think about who we lost. No one. We didn't lose anyone of note. Like you didn't lose anyone. You're like, frick, we lost him. We lost Calvin Ridley, but we'd already lost him. Like that was right past the point. We've already lost him. So I really do think like 11 wins. I think it's safe to say maybe 12. Like I could see 12.
So the over-under's at what, 8.5 right now?
8.5.
Yeah.
Smash it. Smash that over-under.
I would for sure.
Smash it now too before it starts going up. If you look at CBS, they project us 10-7 division winners. If you look at
if we lose the division, and win 9 games, do we fire Art? So we'd
It's
be
definitely
9-8, and we lose the division when we definitely should win it.
well, 9-8 might win you the division this year,
Okay,
honestly.
well, but that's not my hypothetical.
Yes, I
I'm trying to give you a hard decision.
Did the Falcons hire? Did the Falcons fire Art?
Yes.
Probably not. Would I fire him? Probably, yeah. It really. Here's my thing.
Is this Ritter? A super weak schedule?
Is it
but that's Art's choice. That's completely his choice and what he's done. Honestly, I could see a situation too, like if Ritter, let's say game 3, he gets hurt for 2-3 games. If Heineke comes in and is good, he's the type of guy that could take over the job and Ritter do nothing wrong.
Heineke could probably
he's very good. He's very good. He's a starting caliber quarterback, to be honest, in my opinion.
I would say he's a top 32 quarterback. If that's what you're saying for a starting caliber, yeah. But I would say he's between 20 and 32.
Sure. Could be.
Yeah.
But he can get hot too.
Yeah, he can get hot. Let's say this. If you compare last year's Commanders team to our team this year, our roster is much more talented than that Commanders team.
Yeah.
Much more talented.
That's mostly what I'm getting at.
Every position.
Yeah.
So actually, I think you're right, dude. I think even if Ritter is bad, I think Heineke can get you the playoffs with this team. So yes, you should fire Art. If we don't make the playoffs this year, you fire Art.
Especially with a run and defense.
But I will say this: I don't have an expectation of having to win games in the playoffs. I would like to. That's not my expectation for this team yet. Now the expectations like last year can change. Like they will change. Like if we start off the year like we just said and we're 6-2, my expectations are going to change. And if we're 6-2, we look good. Like you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're like that's a good football team. USA Today, they had 2 guys for USA Today do it for the Falcons Wire. One guy said 10-7, the other guy said 12-5.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing, guys. Like we just talked about the schedule. It's not the hardest schedule in the world. There are some teams on there. I will say too, what I like is an easy schedule, but you have some good litmus tests. Jacksonville's an up and coming team that you're probably a year behind them, development wise, because they just made the playoffs this last year and they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. So you're probably a little bit behind them. Detroit, another team that's probably a little ahead of you development wise, but these are good litmus tests. The Jets, another team still ahead of you probably development wise, like, but you're probably right there with them.
Honestly, it's all because of the quarterback discrepancy there. Just because Aaron Rodgers.
All 3 of them. Goff, I think, is a top 15 quarterback. Probably top 12. I'll say top 12 quarter. I mean, he played flawlessly last year. Is that a 1-year wonder? I don't know, but I mean, if you're basing off last year,
he gets a bad rap. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. So those 3 games were really good litmus tests for us. And the Saints are always going to be like a good team to play against. And then Minnesota, I like for us to beat up on them. I think they're still like they made the playoffs last year. That's a good litmus test. I think they're frauds, but we'll see if they're better this year. For them, they're probably hoping to like actually be more worth their record. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see a world where the Falcons don't make the playoffs this year and don't win at least 10 games.
Yeah.
10 games is my low. I think probably 11-6 is where we'll end up. Something around that, 11-6.
Maybe I should take my own advice and not be so harsh. If we win 9 games, then maybe it would be best to not tear it down and like give a little bit more leeway and like try to keep a core, even coaching staff together.
It depends how you lose those games too. Like, are a couple of those games because of a turnover right at the end of the game, or you know what I mean, or like something crazy where it's like, God, or are we getting our butts kicked? Like, I think it's really hard to say.
Or if it's like if we lose like 3 of our last 4 games or something like that to miss the playoffs,
right? That would be
That's a situation where it's like, oh, we pulled in Atlanta there.
Especially when your last 4 games are Carolina, Indy, Chicago, New Orleans. You shouldn't lose 3 of those 4.
No, you should win all 4.
Especially only one of those are home games though. So 3 of the 4 are away, but you should win 3 of the 4, if not split half and half. So what I'll say is this, like, what I hate about the ESPNs and all those shows is that they'll do things like this where it's like, oh, you should fire the coach if this happens. But as on a podcast, we're going to be here and say like, well, honestly, you got to look at everything. You got to see what happened in those games. Why did we only go 9-8 when we thought we would go so and so? Even if we go 9-8, guys, remember, smash that DraftKings because it's 8.5 is the over under.
Still in the money. You're in the green.
Still in the money. So yeah, I mean, we will get closer to our expectations and we'll maybe revise this win-loss again as we get closer to this season for sure. But as a Falcons fan, you got to feel pretty hopeful.
We'll take another look at it going into the preseason probably. But
Absolutely.
yeah, we're about an hour 30 in here. Anything else
Yeah,
you
I
want to hit
mean,
on? Aaron's our United guy, but they've been playing awful, which is
well, well, they haven't been super awful as of late. Let's hit them real quick. Five stripes. They won
United.
4-0 on Wednesday against Colorado. Colorado's not a good team, but this is what you want to see. You want to see a dominant performance. And we did dominate. 68% possession, 27 shots to compare to their 6. Only 10 of ours were on target, which is like 10 out of 27 is not the greatest, but you can live with it when you had 551 passes to their 262. Like you
Good Lord.
dominated them.
It's a
But
game of
then
opposition.
it's such a head scratcher when then you go and play Chicago this Saturday and you tie 3-3. Not only do you tie 3-3, Chicago was down a player at the 26th minute to a red card. And we also got a player got red carded in the 71st minute. But still, by that point, all the goals in the game had been scored minus the last one. So they scored in the 89th minute to tie it. Chicago did. So another one of those letdowns at the very end of the game. I know Aaron was super upset about the coaching. I mean, that's where I messaged him today and said, "Yo, how did we lose this game? Like how do you lose? We dominated possession again. Well, 56-44. We had the advantage of possession. We had 480 passes to their 375 shots, 15 to their 10. But listen to this: they had 3 shots on target and they had 3 goals. Like that's where it's at, and that's what it comes down to. Gigi Yorgos Yakamakis, Yorgos Yakamakis, I think is how you pronounce it. He scored 2 goals. He scored a brace even though he came off the bench. So that was super impressive. Super happy to have him again. And the big news United wise, and we're going to talk about this more in the coming weeks as the summer transfer window comes up, is Luis Araujo, our designated player from Brazil, has now been like we're now selling him to another Brazilian team. So he will be gone. And so that opens up a designated player position spot for us, which if you don't know, like that's where you can spend your big dollars for a foreign player. And so the question is, what money do we spend? I was looking into this a little bit. If you look at, it's cool. So the United, one, we do spend more than any other team in MLS when it's come to designated players. We have the 4 of the 5 biggest transfers of all time in MLS history is us. And 3 of them are the top 3, which was Thiago Almada, who's our best player right now, 14.5 million we paid for him. Pity Martinez, who we got, we don't have him anymore. This was back when 18-19, we paid 14.5 million for him. And then Zico Barco, who we have out on loan right now to another team, we paid 12.2 million for him. And Luis Araujo was number 5 on that list at 11.5 million. We got from Brazil. But if you also look at the transfer away, Atlanta United again has 3 players in the top 10 so that means we've got good talent taken from us from other teams. Miguel Almiron being the most famous of the 3 coming off our championship team, 24 million Newcastle paid for him. So that's a lot. We made money on all of the guys we traded. Pity Martinez was 16 million. And then actually, I guess we didn't make million on Luis Araujo. It's only 9 million. So we probably lost a little bit on him, but that's to be expected. He never lived up to kind of what we thought he would. Yeah. So my thing was, who do we think we're going to get? And at first I was like looking at players like, I want to go get another European player. And I went like immediately like, all right mid, we got to replace Araujo, right mid. And like Thomas Mueller came to my mind, who's out of like plays for Bayern Munich. But I looked at his estimated fee is like 30 million. We're not going to pay that. Like if you look at like the history, the most money anyone's ever spent in MLS is us at 14.5 million.
Yeah.
We might go more than that, but
yeah,
I don't think we're
not gonna triple.
Mark.
Yeah,
no, not at all. But the cool part is, so Garth Lagerwey, who's our general manager, he never Seattle never spent money when he was there, never. So I was going back and rewatching stuff, and people were talking about how the biggest hire was him, and I think now he gets to actually spend that money. I mean, Yorgos has been a great sign. Let's see what he does. So I'm excited.
Hey, maybe brighter days.
Brighter days indeed. I mean, we're sitting right there still in the playoff hunt. I think if things don't improve, you might see a short leash for our coach, a very short leash. So
why not?
Yeah. Do you have any? Oh yeah, especially when you lose to Chicago, who's 14th, and we're the 4th team right now. So
Yeah,
Not good.
not a good look.
Are we tied? As a tie that felt like a loss.
Yeah.
So, do you have any wisdom you want to instill with our listeners?
I have none. I'm tired. My back
No,
hurts.
no wisdom.
I'm old.
Okay.
No.
Well, he got his wisdom teeth taken out recently, guys. That's why he has no wisdom anymore. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just like 12 years ago.
My dad always makes that joke that he's wiser than me because he has his wisdom teeth still. So
You're not supposed to have them anymore, right?
I mean, some people can, man, if your mouth's big enough. I think that's how it works. I don't know. It's a space issue. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
Me neither.
All right.
Me neither.
We're getting out of here. Y'all have a good week. Later.
Deuces.
Before you go, if you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share with your friends. If you'd like to see these mugs, all of our video podcasts are now available on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. For more content, follow at Blursed Sports on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can also follow us individually at Blursed Blake, at Blursed Hayden, and at @A_Kais. If you're interested in chatting with us directly, join our new Discord community by typing discord.io/BlursedSports into your browser. As always, a huge shout out to our music man, Oh No, for keeping the vibe right and laying down straight slappers every week. You can find his information in the show notes. Thanks again so much for listening, and see you next week.